Hey, this is Meridith Elliott Powell, and it is 9 a.m. Eastern, and it is time for Sales Logic, the show where we dive into the strategies, discuss the steps, everything that you need to know to sell logically. Hanging out here with my partner, Mark Hunter, where it is a freezing, what did you say, 24 degrees in Dallas?
24 degrees in Dallas, Texas at 8:01 a.m.
That is cold. Hopefully it's going to burn off today.
Hey, look, it's a lot warmer. When I lived in Omaha, it would have been like 10 degrees right now. So this is warm. Okay. So, hey, it's okay. It's okay.
That's true. I'm heading to Minnesota next week, and they're very excited that they told me the weather is amazing there. It's going to be 30 degrees, and they're quite excited because typically it's 2 or 3 degrees there right now.
They won't know what to do with it being 30 degrees. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I can imagine that many of our friends around the U.S. right now have experienced some pretty tough weather over these last 24 hours. I think a lot of the country is pretty snowed in. So I hope that you are joining us here because you can use this time to make some sales calls. How about I hit the video and we go ahead and dive in?
Let's go.
Prospect with integrity, we will get customers who have integrity. Integrity is the foundation from which everything is built on.
You better understand value. But at the end of the day, sales is a relationship business. It is a people business. It is an emotional business.
This is Sales Logic.
It is Sales Logic, where we come to you every Saturday morning to talk about how you can sell more effectively. Before I turn the show over to Mark, I'd just like to tell you how the show works. Again, I'm one of your co-hosts, Meridith Elliott Powell, and every week we spend about 20-25 minutes talking about sales, a hot topic, a question from you, the audience, a lightning round, and a book you ought to be reading. Mark Hunter, my co-host, is going to walk you through what we have planned today. But Mark, Jack Hubbard just joined us from Chicago, where it is 3 degrees. Oh my gosh.
Well, that would be the 3 degrees of separation also. So, so that's kind of, okay. That's a comment from years past, isn't it? Remember that movie? Okay. We won't go into movie lines this morning, but we got Vancouver, Canada chiming in this morning. Good morning, Bonnie. Great to have you. And yeah, let me set the show up. We're going to be talking about CRM.
CRM's everybody's favorite topic, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. And the topic specifically, what role does it play in importance? Why do you need one? And how do you get your team engaged? Gee, that's a question I had this week from 2 different CROs. And the question, so let's jump into first the question that comes from Lena in Krakow, Poland. We have heavily invested in Salesforce for our CRM. We bought it, hired trainers, done coaching, but still I am struggling to get our team to use our CRM. Gee, this is a very common question. Fire away.
It is a very common question. My first question on the table. All right. So you want your team to use the CRM. Number one, as a leader, you need to be asking yourself, how much are you using the CRM? Are you in that CRM every day? Even if you do not actively manage a portfolio, I'm still hoping you talk to customers, you engage in customers. And if you want your team to use the customer relationship management system, then you better be using the customer relationship management system.
So spot on with that. And there's a couple of issues that come into play. Salespeople are very quick to think, oh, well, this CRM system is a gotcha tool, especially if you're in an organization. It sounds like this is the case for you, that you really haven't used a CRM before. So they have to understand the benefits. What are the merits? How is it going to help them? And what I like to use is I'm going to say, hey, CRM is going to help you from a time management and ultimately helping you make money. So within Salesforce is a very robust tool. It's probably the biggest CRM ecosystem out there. Dynamics comes pretty close to it, but I put Salesforce ahead of it. So what does it do? It gives you a tremendous amount of bells and whistles, but focus in on the tasks and activities that you as a salesperson are going to be able to do today, this week. That's the merit of the CRM. And I'm going to tell Alina, that's what you want to focus in on. It's going to help your salespeople be more productive. Now, for you on the other end, it's a tremendous forecasting tool, but that's where salespeople go awry, because suddenly their forecast is a little more public and they're afraid of it. So downplay the forecasting aspect initially, upplay the ability for tasks and activities to help you from a time management.
Jennifer, you are spot on. We are under the wrong names this morning. I think I let Mark into the studio before I let me into the studio. So I think that's why we popped up under the wrong names.
I think people know who you are, Meridith.
I'm hoping that I think our audience is smart enough to figure it out. But if Jennifer hadn't pointed it out, I never would have noticed. I love this topic of the CRM. If you want your team to use the CRM, then focus on the CRM. You know, when you have your huddles in the morning or you have your weekly meetings or anything like that, pull notes out of the CRM or focus on the lack of notes on the CRM. Your team is going to do what you focus on. So therefore, if I report to Mark and I'm in a sales meeting with him and Mark knows who I have on my pipeline and he goes in there and there's no notes, Mark needs to bring that up. He needs to discuss it. Better than that, if I did enter those notes, he needs to give me the cookie for having done so. I went in, I saw that Meridith called on XYZ Industries. Great notes in there, Meridith, about the call. Walk us through some detail about the success that you're having. Your salespeople will go where you focus. So integrate the CRM and the use and or lack of it into everything you do. They'll get the hint.
They certainly will. And this whole thing, if it's not in the CRM, it didn't happen. This is a very simple mantra that you have to adopt as a company. All of your communication with your salespeople begins by you going into Salesforce, by you going into the CRM system. And just as you said, Meridith, check in. And if they begin to see you using it and referring to it and referencing everything in it, then they're going to pick up the idea that, you know what? They need to do that. Now, here's something you want to watch from a CRM system. Make sure that they don't have the ability to just suddenly jettison a prospect all the way up to close or something like that. I mean, there are steps in a CRM system, in your pipeline, in your cadence, however you want to develop it, that you need to make sure that your salespeople are adhering. So when you're going into the CRM system, watch for this. This is a little minefield that I see happening, where salespeople will suddenly move prospects much further along, or they move them out of the pipeline. Watch for those. And again, in most CRM systems, Salesforce is one of them, you can create an exception report. In other words, it's going to provide to you on your dashboard as a leader the ability to see which activities change, just the activities that changed. And it's going to be very prudent of you, especially early on, to be monitoring that. I also suggest, and this is, I hate saying this, but you're going to monitor this exception piece for salespeople who are in desperate need of improvement because they're probably gaming the system. So those are two little inside tips that I strongly suggest. So anyway, hey, we're kind of bridging into the topic, so we should really talk about CRM. That's what we've been talking about. What role does it play in importance? Why do you need one? And how do you get your team engaged?
Yeah. So I got to tell you, I was the biggest violator of the CRM. For years, I thought there was no need to use one, and I didn't use one. And I didn't use one when I worked in corporate. I mean, I wasn't going to get in trouble for not using it. So I didn't use it, which you have to understand that there has to be reward for using it, and there has to be repercussion. But unfortunately, I carried that into my own business. And the first 3 years I was in business, I didn't use a CRM. And people ask me all the time, they say, if you could give yourself advice on the front end of starting a business, what's some advice you'd give? And one of the biggest is I would have used a CRM, because I kept falling on my face. I would forget deals people that I'd talked to that were interested, or they had just hired Mark. So, maybe they didn't need somebody this year. Well, I would forget them. And then all of a sudden an email would pop up and I'd be like, oh God, I never called on that person. That was bad. But what was worse was that I would forget that I had talked to people about things, or I would forget details. So the role it plays in sales is, one, it keeps you organized, and two, it keeps you, in my opinion, credible, because you're able to put the notes in there so that you are going to do what you said you were going to do. If I said I'm going to call you in 3 months, I can't just hope to God I remember to call you in 3 months.
Oh, without a doubt. And a key thing with any CRM system, make sure it links into your email. Make sure it links in, and ultimately it'll link into your phone system too. The idea being is because most of your communications are going to happen by way of email or by way of telephone, and you want those integrated into your CRM system. This gives you that track record. This gives you that you talk about making yourself more efficient. This is what a CRM system does. It helps you use your time so much more efficiently. But what happens with CRM systems is people get caught up with the shiny object. Wow, I can do this. I can do this. This is where, I'm going to call out some names right here. I'm going to call out Salesforce. We talked about this from Lena. Lena, I hope you have a Salesforce that is at least 20, 25 salespeople. Because I tell any company, if you have less than 25 salespeople, you don't want to be looking at Salesforce, period. Because it's a gorilla. It's a big thing. If you're a small Salesforce, 4 or 5 people, I recommend Zoho. It's what I use. I know you use it too, Meridith, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's a very simplistic tool. It's scalable up to 12 people very easily. It works. There is Pipe Drive. There's a host of CRM systems out there, but you want to get one that fits to your organization where it's going to be in 2 or 3 years. But let's come back to the chase here. What are you really using it for? And something we haven't talked about is make sure marketing is embedded into your CRM system. Because you talk about drip campaigns, you talk about marketing programs. These are absolutely become exponentially more powerful when they tie into what's the activity you've got going on in your CRM system. So make sure you integrate the two. That's why HubSpot, I think is really, I think the best. Wow, I'm just doing a shout out here. We should get them as a sponsor. They are the best CRM system. If I want to be able to integrate all of those pieces together, I work with several companies, 40, 50, 60 salespeople, and they love HubSpot. They love it.
Yeah, Jack Hubbard just asked a great question. Besides Salesforce, what are some other good systems for small businesses? Which is really important. I went ahead and added a few because I just had a CEO ask me the other day. Pipeline, Agile. Mark just mentioned HubSpot and Zoho. Would love people to plug into the chat any other CRM systems that you use. Something I want to say is it is not the system. I am a lot of times, I have salespeople push back and say, well, if we just had a good CRM system, it's not the problem. You can use a spreadsheet to start with that. So the information going on it is what's important. But these are a couple great. Jennifer had a great question as well. How much training should a sales professional have in the CRM ultimately? Great question. It needs to be a little bit at first. Just get them using the system, understanding how to put notes in there and add a task, and then build on that. But train them, get them to take action, train them again, get them to take action, train them again, and get them to take action. Mark, I want to ask you about, because Mark Bregman put up a great statement here. He says, as a former divisional forecaster for Honeywell many years ago, they could have used a CRM and his forecasting would have been better. Talk a little bit about forecasting, because I realize this is kind of advanced with a CRM, but once you get these basic pieces down, this forecasting is so powerful.
Yeah, it is. And one CRM I unfortunately left out, and that's Dynamics. Microsoft Dynamics, great CRM system, again, for larger sales teams that want to do a lot of customizing. Okay, back to this whole thing, forecasting. This is absolutely key, but this is where there becomes a disconnect between the salesperson and the manager. The salesperson is always reticent to be plugging in things into the CRM system from a forecast standpoint, because it's going to be used against them. And the manager, of course, is looking for that. And some of the strategies that you got to use is you got to be breaking down your sales process into steps. And this is where the biggest hang up goes awry. People have different definitions of what stage they're in. When you develop a CRM system from a forecasting standpoint, you've got to have very concrete benchmarks. In other words, if this is at a 50% probability of closing, what are the criteria that is meeting? If it's at 75%, what is the criteria it is meeting? Everybody has to be singing from the same hymn book. Otherwise, things break apart, because one person will sit there and say it has a 75% chance closing. Another person will say it has 25%. The other piece is from a weighting standpoint. Am I weighting this? And a lot of financial people say, "Oh, we want to weight the forecast." In other words, if it has a if it's a $100,000 deal and it's a 75% chance of closing, we're going to count it at 75,000. I don't like that, because me as a salesperson, I've got a 75% chance of closing a $100,000 deal, not a $75,000 deal. So I don't like that weighting. But anyway, that's just my theory. That's just my philosophy. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that ultimately that's where you want to get the team, so that as a group you're able to forecast individually the probability that what sales are going to close, what's moving through the pipeline, and as a team. The beauty of the CRM is the beauty of data and analysis, and really helping you understand with your sales process what's working and what isn't working. And I say this from the stage all the time, through no fault of your own. Some of the sales strategies you're using right now are not going to work 3 months from now. Again, not your fault. The marketplace shifts. Imagine if the supply chain started to come back on, or it gets worse than it is right now. What if inflation goes up or it goes down? What if gas prices? What if these truckers, protesting in Canada, all of a sudden decided to get vaccinated and the trucking lines came back on? There's so much outside of our control. So the beauty of the CRM is that you're entering all this data in there. You pull the numbers out and the information, and you're able to see, is my strategy closing business or is my strategy not closing business? One of the most important things that I think Mark has said this morning is salespeople are afraid to enter. And that means even if you're in your own business, even if you're the only person looking at it, you don't want to have to admit that somebody's going to look at something and think you're not doing the work. If you are using a CRM as a disciplinary issue, you are not a good leader. That's a whole separate conversation you need to be having with people. If they're entering bad data, if they're not entering data, that's a conversation that you as a leader need to have with that individual. Let people enter everything they can into the CRM, because that is how you get a transparent view of what's working and what isn't working. And if you're like me or you're like Mark and you work for yourself, I enter everything into my CRM. So I'm able to pull it out at the end of the month and ask myself, did I make really good quality sales calls? Was I kind of fooling myself? Or did I just have my best month on record, and why? I'm able to analyze that so I get better and better.
Yeah, this is so interesting. What I cringe at is when a company puts a CRM system in place, then they hire an administrator. They're going to handle the CRM system. They're going to tell people when they're not doing something right, when they're doing. No. It's the sales manager's job. The administrator can handle all the functions behind the scene, but it's the sales manager's job to be calling people out. Or if there's an issue, if there's a compliment, whatever it might be, it goes back to integrating the CRM system into the sales meeting itself. Because it's got to be. Wow, we're really lighting up the chat line here. This is absolutely fantastic. Great conversation here this morning. Because clearly, CRM systems, I think, for any organization, are going to increase your productivity by at least 25 to 35%. And for solopreneurs, I think it's going to increase your productivity by 100%.
Yeah,
I'm that sold on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Jennifer, I love the comment that you've put in here. And I just finished a sales training last week for a client, and this very issue came up. Should a sales professional have training in the basics of marketing? And if so, would that benefit their numbers in CRM reports? Wow. So I just met with a head of sales and a head of marketing, and marketing was so excited about everything that they were putting into the CRM, but it was completely disconnected from what the sales team was doing. It was like they were functioning in two different silos. So the answer to your question is yes. And the flip of it, the marketing team needs to have basic training in what the sales team. And the question that I told them that they need to have on their agenda at least once a month is marketing needs to present. This is everything we're doing. Question on the table is, salespeople, how are you going to take what marketing's doing, even though marketing has things going in an automated system that's going to help salespeople, all this content, all this information that marketing has used, how are you going to take that and bake that into your sales process, bake that into what you're doing? So absolutely, as the sales leader or the chief revenue officer or whatever, you have to force that integration.
Hey, without a doubt. And this, as much as sales and the CRM system can help marketing comes back the other way. I want to have the two systems absolutely parallel. Hey, time is racing away on us. We should jump into the book because we got a great book. You picked this book. I was not aware of it, and I did some research before the show. And yeah, I like it.
Yeah, so it's the book is The Ultimate CRM Guide by John Freeland, and I've given this book to all of my sales managers, sales leaders, and chief revenue officers that I work with, because I don't have a single one that isn't struggling at least to get a third to a half of their team to use the CRM. So this book is basically a checklist, a guide as to every reason you should use the CRM, but probably more valuable, what you need to be doing to get a team to use the CRM. And don't think if you're in business for yourself, this book is not for you, because it is for you. If you're not using a CRM, you need this book to understand why and how you need to use a CRM. I do think we need to comment on our friend Yornam here with the Trust Show. Oh my God, I love this comment. You are so right. The CRM, unfortunately, will not close the sale for you. If we could make it do that, everybody would be using the CRM. But it's only as good as the discipline you have to use it consistently. Enter the information, check the stats and analytics, and my goodness, follow up. You are so right. It's a great tool, but it is just technology.
CRM system is a Google map. You still have to do the drive to get to where you want to go. Yeah,
all right.
Spot on with that. And back to that book, John is with Accenture, and
Yes.
the book was written through a collaboration of a number of Accenture partners. So again, this is really high quality information. So the book, The Ultimate CRM Guide. So very much suggest. Okay, got your hand on the buzzer? Are you ready?
I I put the book up there,
There it is.
for anybody who wants to read it. You can find it on Amazon. All right, hand on the buzzer.
Hand on the buzzer. Top 10 reasons. Wait a minute. Top 10. Do we ever actually get to 10? I mean, sometimes we go way. Okay, I'm sorry, Mark. Drink more coffee. Top 10 reasons you should use a customer relationship management system. Go.
Number one is it's going to get you organized.
Number two, it's going to help you use your time more efficiently. I see. Now we're counting. We're counting to 10. Okay.
Number three, you're going to have better relationships with your customers because you're going to really understand what you talked about, what their needs are, and remember things about them.
Number four, you'll be able to forecast much more efficiently and more effectively.
You're going to be able to upsell and cross-sell more easily. Those conversations will remind you of more things that you need to talk about and you need to bring up with customers.
Okay, we're on number 6. You forgot to say number 5.
Sorry.
We're on number 6 here. Okay, number 6, it will allow you to integrate your marketing efforts to complement better your sales efforts.
All right, number 7 is it will ensure that everybody on the team can take a holistic approach to sales because they'll see the notes in there. You'll see the last conversations that happened.
Number 8, long term, you will remember so much more information because it's going to be right there in your CRM system. That contact that you haven't talked to in a year, you'll be able to find their information so much faster.
Yeah, I think the other thing, number 9, is it's hard for me to nail it down to just one more, but you're going to become the king or queen of a follow-up. You're not going to forget to follow up with a customer because the CRM will remind you not only to follow up, but what to follow up about. It's going to do the thinking for you.
Number 10, this will blow your mind. It will decrease your stress. Yes, it will, because when you're using a CRM system properly, it's amazing how you can now let the CRM system guide you and help you. Just like I said earlier, it's like a Google map. You still got to do the drive, but it's going to help you get from point A to point B. Wow, great episode. Great audience participation.
Yeah, really,
today.
really great ops. You're absolutely right, Yoram. You will be informed when you have the call. I'm also going to argue in number 11 is now your pipeline is going to be overfilled. You use the CRM correctly. It's exactly what Mark said. You're going to be more productive.
Okay, then I'm going to go to number 12, okay? Number 12, with a full pipeline, guess what? You don't discount your deals. Because why do we discount? Because we're
better
scared.
and better.
It's the only deal. CRM system keeps you a full pipeline. Okay, are we done there?
We are done.
Okay. Hey, I want to say thank you for listening to Sales Logic this week. If you like what you hear, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. If something we've said has earned you a single dollar, consider telling a friend about our show. It's how we grow to help you grow. I'm Mark Hunter.
And I'm Meridith Elliott Powell.
Remember, when you sell with confidence and integrity,
uncertainty suddenly becomes your competitive advantage.
And the sale becomes logical. And we have fun doing the show.
That's right. All right. We will see you back here, right here at 9 a.m. Eastern, Saturday morning. Please, if you have a question, a topic you want us to cover, something burning that would help you sell more effectively and more efficiently, send it through to us at saleslogicpodcast.com. And thank you to our audience. You all are amazing. You make this show so much better. We'll see you here next week and close a lot of deals this week. See you next week.